Hey, Frass Bacts here. Funnily, beyond Europeans complaining about me LARPing a little too hard for their taste, one of the biggest single criticisms I get in my comment section is about my magazine management. Mostly how I tend to not retain empties. So let's talk about it. Magazine management in Shit Hit the Fan. Specifically, how do I feed the gun when reloading? What do I do with partials? What do I do with empties? How do I manage extra ammunition? Before starting, as per usual, like everything on this channel, this is just my personal take on magazine management. I'm not a doctor, I just play one on TV. This is all game theory from some chump-ass civilian you probably shouldn't listen to, so take it all with 55 grains of salt. What works for me may not work for you, and what works for me may actually be complete bullshit. On top of that, this is also game theory for Teowaki or Shit Hit the Fan type scenarios, loss of rule of law, full collapse, degradation of the government, loss of monopoly and violence, you name it. I'm strongly of the opinion for that mostly anything else, the likelihood of needing more than one reload is extremely unlikely, and there's really only a couple ways to skin that cat, so not really going to talk about that today. If my voice sounds like complete hot garbage, it's because I got the COVID ligma. Wasn't so bad, except now everything tastes weird, and Red Bull smells and tastes like piss. Why do I know what piss tastes like? I don't know. We'll leave that for another video. Although I've been told Red Bull, in fact, always smells and tastes like piss, so maybe my taste has actually just been reverted back to normal. Who the fuck knows? Okay, let's start with the actual video. How do I feed the gun? How do I hold magazines? I used to subscribe to the chest-mounted ammo source, plus an emergency reload at the belt line. Theory goes that if you're doing an emergency reload, well, it's on the tin, it's an emergency reload, and you want it fast. For all other reloads, you're going to be pulling from the chest line and then feeding back to that emergency reload as you deplete it. As time has gone on, I've moved away from this theory, mostly out of, necessity. First by ditching the belt and then going to a single reload pouch thing, and then also ditching that in a lot of circumstances. I'll still rock a battle belt or an emergency reload pouch if I'm running a plate carrier because that doesn't hold that much ammunition, but when I'm running a chest rig, I don't really do that anymore because, well, I'm wearing a backpack and I want to use my belt line for the kidney strap. For some serious reload autism, for my chest-mounted reloads, I tend to bias towards my left side, roughly in the center, so if I have a lull, I will begin migrating my magazines forward to the centerline position, just to prevent me fishing around for magazines in the moment, because the ones that are my armpit are especially cumbersome, especially if there's two magazines kind of stuffed in there. Most of my rigs also only care about 4 to 6 magazines, and while this does tickle the balls of another video I want to do, how much ammo, how much magazines for a prepared citizen loadout, I'll touch on it real quick. 4+1 is okay for certain scenarios, but a lot of times I'll plus up with a bandolier of ammunition in my pack, which puts me at 11 magazines total, or 330 rounds, and I have to be going through some pretty serious shit to want to go through all of that. Speaking of which, you can buy one of these bandoliers from Venture Surplus. As the name implies, it's surplus, so it's dirt cheap. Buy a couple, buy several, one for your kit, but perhaps for a couple lying around the house. These are incredibly useful as it obviously keeps all your magazines together in one nice little spot that you can grab and go with. And it also acts as an impromptu bandolier chest rig thing for a way to carry magazines. Even if you already have a chest rig, in the heat of a fire maneuver type drill, no one wants to watch you run out of ammunition, dive into your pack, and then be carrying this bundle of 6 magazines just in your hand. Just put this in your bag, pull it out, sling it over your neck, and then feed straight from this in the moment, and then if you get a chance, put them back into your chest rig. Only downside here is these can't hold PMags, only metal mags. You can hold PMags, but then it only holds 3. Okay, back to the video. So that's feeding the gun.
The problem is that I have to follow all these accounts because I gotta be ahead of it. I gotta be liking these posts before they get DM'd to me, because then my inbox fills up and it's impossible to use. So I gotta be following the hard cats and the literally me cats and the cats with jobs and cats with hard hats and fucking all the cats. There's a lot of good ones. But then I gotta like all of them, and then it pisses me off because I'm like, oh shit, the fucking literally me cats posted that yesterday, now you're posting it today, I gotta still like it, otherwise somebody's gonna see that because they're not also subscribed to literally me cats. This is a fucking serious problem that we got going on. And then they're gonna DM it to me, and then I'm gonna have to either reply to it or just thumbs up their fucking post of sending me a fucking cat that I already liked. So it's exhausting. It's so hard to be me.
But what about depleted magazines, empty magazines? What am I doing with those? Well, this is the part where everyone gets pissed off at me. I drop them in the dirt and move on with my life. Now, most of you get this because you have an IQ slightly higher than a grapefruit, but for those that keep leaving the comment, In training, even though I'm dropping them, I do in fact go back for them, not just leaving them there. That's $10 of magazines. But I just don't want to build up training scars where I always retain magazines all the time, because a reload, an emergency reload, is very much an instinctive process. I think training scars is a bit overused nowadays, but in this specific instance, retaining magazines always is a great way to have a training scar that persists into real-world scenarios and absolutely could get you killed on the streets of downtown Beijing 10 years from now. Who am I kidding? 5 years from now. We have 15 years of GWAT footage to look at where military SOPs of retaining magazines at all costs has dudes doing reloads with retention on an empty gun in bad breath range. Now, there is a reason for this. In the military, in-field resupply comes in the form of ammunition on stripper clips. If you want to emulate that, be my guest. There is in fact upside of not needing to carry the small amount of bulk and weight that extra magazines have. And then you, as time goes on, when you have a moment, you're packing magazines with loose ammunition as needed. But man, I don't know if it's just the concept or the fact that I've been playing Tarkov for the first time in like 5 years, but the idea of packing a combat load of bullets into a magazine in a hot zone is incredibly unappealing to me. And God forbid you actually need to ammo mid-fight and you have to begin treating your magazine-fed rifle like a shotgun. Not a fan.
Every time I try it, even though it's never worked. It will not work. It cannot work because, of course, it's not real. But like I try it every single time, and it doesn't matter. Oh, kill me! God, please make it stop.
There's also kind of a sidebar. There are those that retain magazine not because the extra ammunition that they have comes in the form of loose ammo, but because they're worried about running out of magazines to begin with. Once again, if you're in the military, especially as I've heard in Ukraine very early on, high quality magazines are somewhat rare and you're gonna want to hold on to them. You are not in Ukraine. Well, I mean, statistically speaking, at least some of you are, but by and large, you're not. You live in the United States where you can buy a high quality 5.56 pattern magazine that feeds excellently for basically dirt cheap prices in bulk. You can by cutting out that cheeseburger triple decker with enough saturated fat to cause a singularity, or that Frappadappa Fuccuccino from Starbucks, and buy 2 to 3 extra magazines per month. In less than a year, you're going to have a box full of so many damn magazines that you and your homie will die 27 times over before you ever run out of magazines to replace in the most insane shit hit the fan type scenario. And on top of that, you and your offspring will be insulated for any potential magazine shortages or magazine bans or spike in magazine prices as time goes on. So, yeah, do as you will. Personally, for me, of the things that I put money into over time, it's owning a lot of extra magazines because it's not that much cost in the long term. I will eventually use it, and it allows me to basically kind of live my life without having it to revolve around a piece of empty metal. Regardless, that was a very long discussion about empty magazines. Let's talk about scenarios where you do actually want to retain magazines. There's the obvious, just forced type scenario. Sometimes in a training environment, you actually don't have a choice. For example, maybe you're doing night vision up in the mountains, and if you drop a magazine in the pitch black up there, you're never finding it again. Or competition sometimes just demands that you retain magazines. So, in those cases, yeah, retain your magazines. But perhaps the more pressing reason to retain magazines are partials. That is, magazines that still have ammunition in it, in a lot of cases a lot of ammunition in it, and since ammunition is a resource we want to manage, we want to hold on to this magazine. While we could use our pockets or retain magazines in our actual chest rig, these come with a number of issues. Pockets tend to just be hard to put stuff in, especially when you're behind cover, and if you put partials into your chest rig, well, now you have a clusterfuck situation of magazines in your chest rig that are some half empty, some completely full. I've run them inverse so I can tell at a glance, but overall, most people are going to just gravitate towards purpose-built kit, namely a dump pouch. These are excellent ways to hold empties or partial magazines, but also double as a purpose-built item to hold the rest of your MRE and to get you caught on doorknobs and tree branches. I've tried a couple in the pursuit of getting one that doesn't piss me the fuck off. Most of the time I use this flatline dump pouch. It's kind of a last resort dump pouch for either obviously magazines and SSSE, and it folds up into a diminutive little package when not in use. Gotta mention my boys at Blue Alpha make functionally the same product as well. My issue with these when they're deployed is that they're so small the magazines instantly gain sentience and always arrange themselves in a perfect manner to be as inefficient as possible, and you find that like the third magazine that you try to put in here barely fits, and then the magazine dolphin dives its way out as soon as you begin moving. So then you need to do the jiggle game to get it to play Tetris to make room for more. It ends up being a two-handed affair a lot of the time. So, for serious dumpage, like I said, you're going to want something a little more purpose-built. I've used the T-Rex Arms Wallaby and the Sword Exploitation Pouch. Jesus fucking Christ. Both are functionally very similar, being able to be kind of rolled up when not in use. Both have very similar dimensions, both Velcro mount to the bottom of a plate carrier dangler style. The Wallaby is what I initially gravitated towards. It's a much cleaner design. It doesn't have buckles, loops for glow sticks, shotgun shells, I don't know. My only issue with the T-Rex Arms one is the mouth seems to be pretty conservatively designed, which may be intentional to prevent magazines from jumping out, and it tends to work well if you're running a slick chest rig, but I find as soon as you put pouches up front, you tend to do a lot of, this. So, the Sword, despite some of the bloat on here and the belt clip that I don't really like, has a much wider mouth and tends to kind of bow outwards, allowing for one-handed inserts much more easily. Kind of view it as a flared magwell type situation. So, I've been a fan of this in my team since, a lot of times we're going to be at a small unit size. During bounding drills, we actually go for reloads during the movement to make sure we have a full magazine when arriving on station, for the lack of a better term, to kind of keep that fire rate and momentum going. And this allowed me to retain magazines on the fly without too much hassle, one-handed. Okay, hopefully this was useful to you. Once again, this is my take on managing something very personal, so take it all with a grain of salt. I'll see you, same time, same place, next week. Bye, Felicia. It's fun to see. How asleep are you, Nova? Doge. Oh, she awakens. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. You want pets? Does Nova want pets? Hello.